It is my great pleasure and honor, dear Professor Souto, to present my warmest and most cordial congratulations to your 90th birthday. I wish you all the best good health and well-being for the years to come. My greetings from Germany come along with some reflections about your article, Die soziale Norm, which was published in Archiv für Rechts- und Sozialphilosophie in 1977. The paper shows interesting connections to current debates in the sociology of law. The article in its nucleus deals with the affective dimension of norms, especially of feelings and, as I would call it, the empirical validity of norms, their factual efficacy in other words. The argument of the paper is rooted in a general theory of norms. It covers a broad field of aspects and leads to the conclusion that the ought, das Sollen, is embedded in and is resulting from positive or negative feelings. This argument is developed from a concept of feeling, idea and will, Gefühl, Idee, Wille, which together produce social norms and social behavior. Both norm and behavior are equivocal. In such manner they constitute the basis of all sociality and are the genuine object of sociology. Norms against this background vary in their degree of intensity, their respective allocation of positive and negative feelings. Legal norms in this sense are the social norms with highest intensity. Social change, consequently, can be understood as a change in the element of idea in social norms. It is therefore a change of norms after all. The element of idea, therefore, is the driving force of social change. Moreover, in contrast to technological rules, social norms are connected with the element of feeling, a sentiment of ought, sollen, that refers to perceived justice. In contrast to Kelsen, the paper shows in its concluding sections how empirical data can enlighten the connection between feeling, idea and will on the one hand and perception of justice on the other. The exploratory study, The Feeling and the Idea of Justice, Souto and Souto, 1968, presents instructive pieces of evidence to demonstrate this connection. Regarding the relevance of the paper for the scholarly discussion, the feeling of ought, Gefühl des Sollens, highlights the question, what happens in the case of disappointment? Current sociology of law started with Niklas Luhmann's suggestion to sociologically understand the ought as a communicated expectation addressing disappointment with persistence. Normative expectations, in other words, communicate contrafactual stability in case of disappointment. When the article concludes that the ought is not a part of the human cognition, one would therefore partly agree, namely insofar as it is a communicative phenomenon, not a psychological one. On the other hand, however, a long tradition in genetic epistemology based on Jean Piaget and Lawrence Kohlberg has drawn the attention towards moral development and normative competences as an intrinsic part of both human and social cognitive competences. In their stage model, these scholars already pointed, although without explicitly referring to it, to the aspect of procedure and procedural justice. Procedural justice research has produced evidence for the assumption that the perceived fairness of a given procedure strongly influences the evaluation of the outcome. And, as a last remark, procedure has become a general factor with respect to production of acceptance. In contrast to certain approaches interpreting acceptance as consent, Zustimmung, sociological systems theory understands it as the disposition to let a decision go unchallenged, even and especially if one does not agree with the outcome or explicitly opposes it. Acceptance and empirical validity, if we follow Luhmann's suggestions in Legitimation durch Verfahren, only become thematic under the condition of negative feelings, of disapproval and dissent. Then and only then the task is to switch expectations from contrafactual persistence, from normative stubbornness, one might say, towards reality contact, flexibility, sobriety. If we, for instance, look at present-day politics, a normatively appropriate reaction of a man who lost a big election campaign would not consist of positive feelings. Nobody would actually expect a consent with a major loss, but rather of a humble acceptance, the ability to bear the undesired outcome. These observations do by no means disregard the relevance of affective attitudes. They rather show their relevance by stressing the fact that, especially in the case of negative feelings and strong disapproval, a non-affective and detached bearing will enable fruitful social relations. The fascinating question then would be, can we excite such a detached behavior by normative expectations?